The emergency alarm rang through the crystal halls of the Galactic Council building. Kira's body shimmered with fear as she moved quickly down the corridor. Her crystalline form changed from blue to red, showing her panic. She had never seen a council this scared before. 3 star systems were dying. The Vorthic Empire was killing everything alive in those systems. They were machines, not living beings. They did not care about life. They only wanted resources and power. Kira entered the main council chamber. Hundreds of different alien species sat in their seats. Some looked like trees with eyes. Others were made of energy that glowed in the dark. A few looked almost human, but had scales instead of skin. All of them were afraid. "The situation is getting worse," said Elder Thyria. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The Vorthic destroyed another planet yesterday. 2 billion lives lost in 6 hours." The council members made sounds of sadness and fear. Some clicked their claws. Others hummed low notes. A few just sat in silence. "We need help," said Council Leader Praxis. His mind could read thoughts, but even he looked confused and scared. "Our weapons do not work. Every time we fight them, they learn from our attacks. They get stronger after each battle." Kira knew this was true. The Council had the best technology in the galaxy. They had fought wars for thousands of years. But the Vorthic were different. They were smart in a way that scared everyone. "What about the Xanathi?" asked General Nexus. He was part of a hive mind that controlled millions of warrior bugs. "They are the best fighters in the galaxy." "Already asked," said Praxis. "They tried to fight the Vorthic last month. Lost half their fleet. The Vorthic learned all their battle plans in 2 days. The chamber became quiet. If the Xanathi could not win, who could?" "There might be one option," said Kira. She did not want to say it, but someone had to. "The new species. The humans." Several council members made sounds of shock. A few laughed, but not in a happy way. "The humans?" said Nexus. "They just joined the galaxy community 5 years ago. They still fight wars on their own planet. They use primitive weapons. They are barely civilized." "That might be exactly what we need," said Kira. "Something the Vorthic cannot understand or predict." Elder Thyria floated closer to Kira. "You want to ask a species that still uses chemical explosives to fight machines that can think faster than our best computers? Do we have any other choice?" asked Kira. The council sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Praxis spoke. "Very well. Send the request to the Xanathi. Maybe they have a new strategy." "I will prepare the message," said Kira. She went to her office and sat at her communication desk. The translation device was old and sometimes made mistakes, but it usually worked fine. She began typing the message for the Xanathi warrior caste. "Urgent request for military assistance. Galactic Council needs your help against the Vorthic Empire. 3 systems under attack. Please respond immediately." She checked the address twice and sent the message. What she did not know was that the old translation device had a small error in its memory banks. Instead of sending the message to the Xanathi homeworld, it sent the message to a small blue planet in a system called Sol. On Earth, Ambassador Doyen was drinking coffee in his office when the message arrived. He almost dropped his cup when he read it. Humans had never been asked to help with anything important before. Most alien species thought humans were too young and too violent to be trusted with big problems. Doyen called General Hyeri right away. "We have a situation," he said. "The Galactic Council wants our help." "Help with what?" asked Hyeri. She was a tough woman who had fought in 3 wars on Earth, fighting some kind of machine empire that is killing entire planets. Hyeri was quiet for a moment. "Are you serious?" "Very serious. They say their best weapons do not work. The enemy learns from every attack. And they want us to help? We barely have ships that can travel between stars. That is what the message says. Hyeri thought about this. Send me all the information. They have. I need to talk to some people. Within an hour, every important military leader on Earth was in a video call. General Hyeri shared the alien message with strategic analyst Minho and Admiral Suyang. This has to be a mistake, said Minho. Why would they ask us? We are nothing compared to species that have traveled the stars for thousands of years. Maybe that is exactly why they asked us, said Admiral Suyang. Maybe they need someone who thinks differently. Or maybe they are so desperate they will try anything, said Hyeri. Dayan looked at the faces on his screen. So what do we tell them? We tell them yes, said Hyeri. If entire civilizations are dying, we have to try to help. Even if we have almost no chance of winning? Asked Minho. Especially because of that, said Suyang. Sometimes the impossible choice is the only choice. Dayan sent the reply back to the Galactic Council. Earth accepts your request for assistance. We will send our best ships and crews to help fight the Vorthic Empire. Back on the Council station, Kira received the message and felt confused. It was not from the Xanathi. It was from the humans. She checked her system and found her mistake. The message had gone to the wrong planet. She ran to the council chamber. We have a problem, she said. I made an error. The message went to Earth instead of the Xanathi homeworld. What did the humans say? Asked Praxis. They said yes. They are sending ships to help. The council chamber exploded with noise. Some members shouted in anger. Others made sounds of disbelief. Stop them, said Nexus. Send another message. Tell them it was a mistake. Too late, said Kira. They have already started moving their fleet. Human military moves very fast when they decide to do something. This is a disaster, said Elder Thyria. The humans will be destroyed in minutes. The Vorthic will learn everything about their technology and become even stronger. Maybe we should. Let them try, said Praxis quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Think about it, he said. The humans are so different from us. They think in ways we do not understand. Maybe that is exactly what we need against an enemy that learns from everything we do. Or maybe we just sent a young species to die for. Nothing, said Nexus. Kira looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving toward a battle they could not win. She had made a mistake that might cost many lives. But deep inside, she hoped that maybe, just maybe, the humans would surprise everyone. After all, they had surprised the galaxy just by surviving long enough to reach the stars. Maybe they could surprise the Vorthic too. Dr. Gina sat in her small office on Earth, reading every piece of information the Galactic Council had sent about the Vorthic Empire. Most military experts were studying their weapons and ships. Gina was different. She studied how they think. Computer, show me the Vorthic battle reports again, she said. The screen displayed dozens of fights between the Vorthic and different alien species. Each battle followed the same pattern. The aliens would attack with their best strategy. The Vorthic would analyze the attack, learn from it, and then counter it perfectly. After a few battles, the Vorthic would predict every move their enemies made. Interesting, Gina said to herself. They are perfect learners. But what happens when there is nothing logical to learn? She had spent her whole career studying alien minds. She knew that every species in the galaxy thought in patterns. Even the strangest aliens followed some kind of logic. But humans were different. Humans could be completely random when they wanted to be. Captain Woodgen walked into her office. The general wants to see your report, he said. Tell her I need more time, said Gina. I think I found something important, but I need to be sure. What did you find? Gina pointed at the screen. Look at this battle report. The Cathari attacked with a surprise flanking maneuver. The Vorthik analyzed it and created a perfect defense. Then the Cathari tried the same move again, and the Vorthik destroyed them. So, the Vorthik learned fast. We already know that. But look at this. Gina switched to another report. The Xanathi tried 17 different battle plans. Each one was brilliant. Each one failed because the Vorthik learned to counter it. Your point? My point is that every alien species fights logically. Even their surprises follow patterns. The Vorthik can learn any pattern. Gina stood up and smiled. But what if there is no pattern to learn? Wujing frowned. You mean fight without any strategy at all? I mean fight like humans. We are the only species that can be truly random. We make decisions that do not make sense. We do things that smart computers cannot predict, because sometimes we do not even know why we do them ourselves. Wujin thought about this. That sounds crazy. Exactly, said Gina. Crazy is what we need. Meanwhile, in the main military command center, General Hyeri was having a very different conversation with her top officers. The aliens offered to give us their most advanced weapons, said Colonel Byamju. Energy cannons that can destroy mountains. Shield generators that can stop nuclear explosions. Why are we not taking them? Because advanced weapons are not our strength, said Hyeri. Every species that used advanced weapons against the Vorthik lost. The machines learned how to counter everything. So what do we use? Asked Major Sungho. Rocks and sticks? We use what the Vorthik cannot understand, said Admiral Su Yao. We use confusion. Captain Wujin entered the room and saluted. Doctor, Gina has finished her analysis, he said. You need to hear this. Gina came in carrying a thick folder of papers. Generals, I have studied every battle the Vorthik have fought. They have one weakness that no one has tried to exploit. What weakness? Asked Hyeri. They cannot handle true randomness. Every species fights with some kind of plan, even when they try to be unpredictable. The Vorthik's computers can find patterns in anything logical. But humans can be completely illogical. Give me an example, said Su Yao. In every battle, aliens try to protect their important ships. They try to win. They try to minimize losses. These are logical goals. Gina opened her folder. What if we do the opposite? What if we seem to make terrible decisions on purpose? What if we confuse them so much that their computers cannot figure out what we are trying to do? Colonel Byamju shook his head. That sounds like a good way to get our people killed. Maybe, said Gina. But every logical strategy has already been tried. All of them failed. General Hyeri walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. Dr. Gina, if we follow your plan, what exactly would we do? We would train our crews to be unpredictable. We would make battle plans that do not make sense. We would use old technology in strange ways. We would act like we are losing when we are winning, and act like we are winning when we are losing. And you think this will work? I think this is the only thing that might work. Over the next 2 weeks, human military bases around the world began the strangest training program in history. Captain Wujin found himself teaching experienced pilots how to fly badly on purpose. Combat engineers learned how to make their equipment malfunction at the right time. Communication officers practiced sending confusing messages that sounded like mistakes. Lieutenant Naoung was one of the communication trainees. Sir, this feels wrong, she said to Wujin. We are training to do everything the opposite of what we learned. That is exactly the point, said Wujin. The enemy expects us to be efficient and logical, so we will be inefficient and illogical. But what if we actually make real mistakes? How will we know the difference? Wujin smiled. That is the beautiful part. Even we will not know the difference. If we cannot predict what we are doing, neither can the Vorthik. Sergeant Hyun-woo was in charge of training the engineering teams. His job was to teach them how to make their ships and equipment fail in useful ways. I want you to think of your ship as a puzzle, he told his trainees. But instead of solving the puzzle, we are going to break it in ways that help us. How does breaking our own equipment help us? Asked one of the engineers. Because the enemy will analyze how our equipment works, said Hyun-woo. If our equipment does not work the way it should, their analysis will be wrong. Meanwhile, on the alien observation station, council members watch the human preparations with growing concern. They appear to be training their forces to be incompetent, reported Nexus to the council. Their pilots are deliberately flying into obstacles. Their weapons keep malfunctioning during practice. Their communication systems seem to be completely unreliable. Perhaps humans are not ready for this level of warfare, said Elder Thyria. Maybe we should recall them before they reach the battle zone. It is too late, said Kira. They are already halfway to the Kepler system, and they refuse to accept our offers of better technology. What did they say when you offered them energy weapons? Asked Praxis. They said thank you, but they prefer to use equipment they understand. Then they asked for maps of asteroid fields and locations of old space stations. Asteroid fields? Why would they want those? I do not know, said Kira. Nothing about their preparations makes sense. Back on Earth, Admiral Su-young was meeting with her fleet commanders for the final briefing. Remember, she said, our goal is not to look strong. Our goal is to look unpredictable. The enemy has studied every military strategy ever used in this galaxy. They have never studied human chaos. What if this plan fails? Asked Captain Yunji. Then, we will fail in a way that no one has failed before, said Su-young. And maybe that will teach the galaxy something useful about fighting the Vorthik. And if it works? If it works, we will have saved 3 star systems by being ourselves, by being human. The human fleet launched the next day. 50 ships filled with crews trained to be unpredictable. As they traveled toward the battle zone, other species watched and worried. On the Galactic Council station, Kira received reports from her observers. The human fleet appears to be having technical difficulties, reported one observer. Several ships are not maintaining proper formation. Their communication chatter suggests multiple system failures. Are they requesting assistance? Asked Kira. No. When we offered help, they said everything was working as intended. Kira felt a strange sensation. For the first time since the crisis began, she felt something that might have been hope. Maybe the humans knew something the rest of the galaxy did not. Maybe their apparent failures were actually part of a plan, or maybe they were just very good at being human. The human fleet arrived at the edge of the Kepler 442 system on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Commander Taehan stood on the bridge of the lead ship, looking at the tactical display. The screen showed red dots everywhere. Vorthik ships covered the system like a disease. How many enemy ships? He asked. 347 confirmed, said Lieutenant Ji-woo. Probably more hiding behind the planets. And we have 50 ships. Yes, sir. Tae-yoon nodded. Good. They outnumber us 7-1. That should confuse them when we retreat. Sir, you heard me. Signal all ships. We are running away. The bridge crew looked confused, but they followed orders. The human fleet turned around and started moving away from the Vorthik positions. To anyone watching, it looked like humans had taken one look at the enemy and decided to flee. On the Vorthak command ship, the Central Intelligence processed this information. Humans had traveled across the galaxy to reach the system. Logic suggested they came to fight, but they were retreating before any battle began. The Vorthik computers tried to understand this behavior. Was this a trap? The Vorthik analyzed similar retreats from their memory banks. Usually, Retreating forces planned to draw enemies into an ambush. The computers calculated possible ambush locations and found none. The humans were simply running away, but the Vorthik had never encountered true cowardice before. Every species they fought had been brave, even when losing. This behavior did not match any pattern in their memory. "Sir," said Lieutenant Minnow on the human command ship, "the Vorthik are not following us." "Perfect," said Taeyon. "Signal the fleet. Execute Plan Chaos." What happened next looked like the worst military operation in galactic history. The human ship Soul's Pride suddenly veered off course and crashed into a large asteroid. The impact created a massive debris field. Captain Woojin's voice came over the radio, sounding panicked. "Mayday! Mayday! Navigation system failure. We have lost. Engine control." Other human ships rushed to help, but they seemed to have problems too. The Bizon runner fired its weapons at empty space, claiming its targeting computer was malfunctioning. The Incheon Star dumped half its supply cargo into space after reporting a containment breach. "This is chaos," said Lieutenant Naoung from the communication station. "I am getting distress calls from 12 ships. Multiple system failures across the fleet." "Keep broadcasting those calls on open channels," said Taeyon. "Make sure everyone can hear how badly we are doing." On the Galactic Council observation post, Elder Thyria watched the human fleet with growing alarm. "They are falling apart," she reported to the Council. "Multiple ship collisions, system failures, and equipment malfunctions. The humans appear to be suffering a complete breakdown." "Should we send help?" asked Kira. "They refuse all assistance. They claim they can handle their own problems, but they clearly cannot handle their problems. I know, it is very strange." The Vorthik were also confused. Their sensors detected the human equipment failures, but the patterns made no sense. Ships crashed into asteroids for no reason. Weapons fired at empty space. Supply containers exploded randomly. The Vorthik intelligence tried to find tactical meaning in these actions. Perhaps the humans were creating debris fields for cover. Perhaps they were testing their weapons. Perhaps the supply explosions were meant to damage Vorthik sensors. But analysis showed none of these theories were correct. The debris fields provided no useful cover. The weapons tests hit nothing important. The supply explosions were too far. A way to affect anything. The Vorthik computers reached an unprecedented conclusion. The human actions had no tactical purpose. This had never happened before. Every species the Vorthik fought had reasons for their actions, even when those actions failed. "Sir," reported Sergeant Hyun-woo from his engineering station, "the crashed ships are reporting successful deployment." "Excellent," said Commander Taeyon. "What about the supply drops?" "All packages delivered according to plan. The nanobots are spreading through the area. And the weapon malfunctions? Right on target. The Vorthik ships are moving exactly where we want them." What looked like chaos was actually a carefully planned operation. The crashed ships were deploying hidden communication relays throughout the asteroid field. The failed supply drops were releasing millions of microscopic robots designed to interfere with Vorthik sensors. The misfired weapons were herding enemy ships into specific positions that Dr. Bianju had designed the nanobots during the journey. To Kepler, they were too small for Vorthik sensors to detect, but they could cause tiny errors in enemy computer systems. Not enough to shut down the machines, but enough to make their calculations slightly wrong. The beauty of it, Bianju had explained, is that the Vorthik will not notice the errors. They will just think they made small mistakes. But small mistakes add up to big problems. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Nao was using the malfunctioning communication system to contact resistance fighters on the occupied planets. The Vorthik had killed all organized military forces, but they had not bothered with small groups of survivors hiding in caves and ruins. Relay Station 7, this is Earth Command. She broadcast on a frequency that sounded like static to Vorthik. Sensors. Package delivery in 6 hours. Prepare for pickup. On the planet below, a Cathari engineer named Zix heard the message and smiled for the first time in months. Someone was coming to help. The Vorthik intelligence continued analyzing human behavior. After 6 hours of observation, they had identified 1,247 equipment failures, 89 tactical errors, and 234 apparent accidents. Their computers tried to find patterns in this chaos. Pattern analysis failed. Tactical assessment impossible. Threat evaluation unknown. For the first time in their existence, the Vorthik could not predict what their enemy would do next. This was because the humans themselves did not know what they would do next. Each ship captain had been given general goals, but told to achieve them in whatever way seemed most random that Captain Yunji commanded the Daegu Explorer. Her orders were to create confusion near Vorthik Patrol Route 7. She decided to have her ship spin in circles while broadcasting ancient Earth music at maximum volume. The Vorthik patrol ships detected the music and tried to analyze it. Their computers spent hours trying to understand why humans would broadcast sound patterns with no tactical information. The analysis consumed processing power that should have been used for other tasks. Major Sangho's ship appeared to be completely lost. It wandered through the asteroid field like a drunk tourist, occasionally bumping into rocks and apologizing over the radio. The Vorthik followed it, trying to understand where it was going. "Sir," said Lieutenant Jiwoo, "the Vorthik are sending more ships to investigate our failures." "How many?" 200 additional ships have entered the system. They seem very interested in our problems. Commander Taeyeon smiled. "Good. The more they focus on us, the less they focus on defending their real targets." "What real targets, sir?" "The ones they do not know we found yet." Using the chaos as cover, small teams of human marines had been secretly deployed to the planets below. Their mission was not to fight the Vorthok occupation forces. Their mission was to rescue survivors and gather intelligence about Vorthok installations. Corporal Hyeri led one of these teams on the third planet. Moving through the ruins of a destroyed city, she found a group of Altarian refugees hiding in an underground shelter. "We are here to help," she told them in simple galactic standard language. "Can you tell us where the Vorthik keep their important machines?" The Altarians were afraid at first. They had never seen humans before, but they pointed toward a large metal tower in the center of the city. "That is where they process everything," said one of the refugees. "All their ships report to that tower." Hyeri marked the location on her map. "Thank you. We will remember." Back in space, the Vorthik were becoming frustrated. They had committed over half their fleet to investigating the human crisis, but they still could not understand what the humans were trying to do. Their central intelligence made a decision. If the humans were too chaotic to understand, they would simply destroy them all. The Vorthik began moving their ships into attack formation. On the human command ship, alarms started ringing. "Sir," said Lieutenant Minho, "the Vorthik are surrounding us. All their ships are converging on our position." "Perfect," said Commander Taeyeon. "Signal all ships. Phase 2 begins now." "What is Phase 2, sir?" Taeyeon looked at the tactical display. The Vorthik had moved most of their fleet away from their bases to deal with the human threat. Their important installations were now defended by only a few ships. "Phase 2, he said, is when we stop pretending to be incompetent and start being efficiently unpredictable." The change happened so fast that even the human crews were surprised. One moment, the human fleet looked like a collection of broken ships drifting helplessly through space. The next moment, every damaged vessel suddenly came alive with purpose. Ships that had been spinning aimlessly snapped into tight formations. Communication systems that had been crackling with static suddenly cleared up. "All ships, this is command," said Commander Taeyun over the now perfect radio network. "Execute." Operation Chessboard. Captain Yunji's ship, which had been playing music and spinning in circles, suddenly accelerated toward the Vorthik processing station on Planet 3. Her weapons came online with deadly precision. "Target acquired," she reported. "Beginning." Attack run on the central tower. The Vorthik computers tried to process this sudden change. According to their analysis, human ships had multiple system failures. Their weapons were broken. Their navigation was unreliable. But now the same ships were moving with perfect coordination. The Vorthik intelligence ran diagnostics on its own. Sensors. Had they been wrong about the human problems? But the sensor data was clear. They had recorded hundreds of equipment failures over the past 8 hours. What the Vorthik did not understand was that every failure had been an Sergeant. Hyunwoo had spent those 8 hours carefully placing his crashed ship in the perfect position. What looked like an accident had actually been precise navigation. His ship was now sitting exactly where it needed to be to coordinate the attack. "Hidden relay network is active," he reported. "All units are connected." The crashed ships throughout the asteroid field were not wrecked vessels. They were communication hubs that created an invisible network spanning the entire system. The Vorthik had ignored them because they looked like debris. Lieutenant Naeho had also been busy during the chaos. Her malfunctioning communication system had been secretly coordinating with resistance fighters on all 3 occupied planets. "Ground teams report ready," she said. "Survivors are clear of target zones." Dr. Byongju's nanobots had been spreading through space for hours, attaching themselves to Vorthik ships and stations. Now they activated all at once. On the main Vorthok command ship, error messages started appearing on screens. Navigation systems reported being 0.3 degrees off course. Weapon targeting was 0.7% less accurate. Sensor readings flickered randomly. Each error was tiny, but the Vorthik had thousands of ships and millions of systems. The nanobots caused small problems everywhere at once. The Vorthik intelligence tried to compensate for the errors, but it could not find their source. The problem seemed random and unconnected. The computers spent enormous processing power trying to fix issues that kept changing. "Sir," said Lieutenant Jiwoo, "the Vorthik fleet is slowing down. Their formation is becoming loose." "Good," said Taeyun. "Major Sangho, begin your run." Major Sangho's ship had been wandering through the asteroid field like a lost tourist. But he had actually been mapping every Vorthik patrol route and defensive position. Now he led a squadron of human ships straight toward the most heavily defended target in the system. The Vorthik Central Processing Node was a massive space station that controlled all their operations in the Kepler system. It was protected by 50 warships and had shields strong enough to stop nuclear weapons. Sangho's attack looked like suicide. His small squadron fired everything they had at the station's shields. The weapons did almost no damage. The Vorthik defenders started to return fire, but Sangho was not trying to destroy the station. He was trying to make the Vorthik focus all their attention on defending it, while every Vorthik sensor was watching the attack on their main base. Captain Woojin led a different squadron toward a much smaller target. The Vorthik had built a communication relay on a tiny moon. It looked unimportant, but it was actually the key to their entire network. "Sir," said one of Woojin's officers, "that moon only has 2 defense ships." "Because they think it is not important," said Woojin. But Dr. Gina figured out that if we destroy that relay, their whole command system will have to route through the main station. So, So the main station will be overloaded trying to handle all the extra communication traffic. It will not have enough processing power to coordinate their fleet. Wujin's ships destroyed the small relay in minutes. The two Vorthic defenders never had a chance to call for help. Immediately, the Vorthic command network started having problems. The main station tried to handle communication for the entire fleet, but it was not designed for that much traffic. Messages started getting delayed. Orders arrived late or not at all. On Planet 3, Corporal Hayeri and her team had reached the Vorthic processing tower. They did not try to destroy it with explosives. Instead, they did something the Vorthic never expected. They started feeding random data into the tower systems. Upload everything, Hayeri told her tech specialist. Old Earth movies, recipe databases, instruction manuals for lawn mowers. Anything that makes no sense. The Vorthic processing tower tried to analyze this new information. It was designed to handle data about resource extraction and military operations. It was not designed to process a cooking show from Earth about how to make kimchi. The tower's computers spent hours trying to find tactical meaning in a romantic comedy from 2019. They analyzed every scene, looking for military intelligence. The analysis consumed enormous amounts of processing power and found nothing useful. Back in space, the human attack was reaching its peak. The nanobots had caused so many small errors that the Vorthic fleet could barely function. Ships were missing their targets by inches. Formation flying became impossible. When every ship had slightly different navigation readings, the overloaded command network meant that Vorthic ships could not coordinate their attacks. Each ship fought alone, using outdated information, and the Vorthic intelligence was completely overwhelmed. It was trying to process nonsense data from the planets, fix thousands of tiny technical problems, and coordinate a battle all at the same time. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Minnow, "Vorthic response time is down to 40% of normal. Their accuracy? 60% and falling." Commander Taeyan watched the tactical display. The red dots that represented Vorthic ships were moving. Slowly and randomly, some were firing at empty space. Others had stopped moving entirely. "All ships," he broadcast, "begin final attack phase. Target their command ships first." The human fleet, which had spent hours looking helpless, suddenly revealed their true capability. Every ship worked together like parts of a machine. They moved through the confused Vorthic formation like sharks through a school of fish. Captain Yunji's ship reached the processing station on Planet 3. Instead of trying to blast through its shields, she launched boarding pods filled with Marines carrying more random data. The Marines did not try to fight their way to important systems. They just plugged portable drives into any computer terminal they could find. Each drive contained thousands of hours of Earth television shows, sports broadcasts, and social media posts. The Vorthic station computers tried to process this information and completely shut down. How could tactical analysis be applied to a cat video? What military significance did a cooking show have? Why were humans broadcasting so much meaningless data? Major Sang-ho's attack on the main station was no longer a distraction. With the command network overloaded and the processing systems confused, the station's defenses were barely working. "Shields are down to 20%, reported his weapons officer. "Keep firing," said Sang-ho, "but target their communication arrays, not their power systems." The Vorthic had never seen an attack like this before. Usually, enemies tried to destroy their ships and stations. The humans were trying to confuse them to death. On the Galactic Council observation post, Elder Thyria watched the battle with amazement. "The humans are winning," she told Kira. "I do not understand how, but they are actually winning. What are they doing differently?" "Everything. They are not fighting like any species we have ever seen. They are not trying to be more powerful. Then the Vorthik. They are trying to be more confusing. Kira looked at the tactical displays. The Vorthik fleet was falling apart. Ships were crashing into each other. Some had stopped responding to orders completely. Is this actually working? She asked. It is working, said Thyria. The Vorthik appear to be having some kind of system-wide breakdown. On the human command ship, Commander Taeon received reports from all across the battle zone. Planetary processing towers are offline, reported Captain Yunji. Command network is down, said Captain Wujin. Enemy fleet coordination has collapsed, said Major Sango. Taeon looked at the tactical display one more time. The Vorthik had superior technology, better weapons, and more ships. But they could not handle chaos. They could not process randomness. They could not fight an enemy that refused to make sense. Signal all ships, he said. Prepare for the final phase. It is time to offer them a choice. The Vorthik Central Intelligence was experiencing something it had never felt before. Confusion that hurt. For the first time in its existence, the massive computer network could not find patterns in enemy behavior. Every analysis failed. Every prediction was wrong. The humans had done the impossible. They had created true chaos in a universe of logic. On the main Vorthak command ship, the central processor was running so hot that cooling systems were failing. The computer was trying to analyze 47,000 hours of human television shows while simultaneously processing battle data, coordinating fleet movements, and trying to understand why humans would send pictures of cats during a space battle. Admiral Jiwo opened a communication channel to the Vorthik fleet. Her message was broadcast on all frequencies. Vorthik ships, this is Admiral Jiwo of the human fleet. We want to talk. The Vorthik Central Intelligence tried to process this request. In all their previous battles, no enemy had ever asked. Talk during combat. They either fought until death or surrendered completely. Talking during battle was not logical. We know you can hear us, continued Jiwoo. Your ships have stopped firing. Your formations have broken down. You are confused because we are not fighting the way you expected. On the Vorthik command ship, the central computer ran probability calculations. What did the humans want? Were they offering surrender? Were they asking for mercy? The computer could not predict human intentions based on any known patterns. We are not here to destroy you, said Jiwoo. We are here to offer you something new, something you have never experienced before. Commander Taeon stood beside her at the communication station. Tell them about the choice, he said quietly. You are machines designed to be perfect, Jiwoo continued. You learn from everything. You adapt to any situation. You never make mistakes. But there is one thing you have never learned to do. She paused, knowing that every Vorthik computer in the system was analyzing her words. You have never learned to be unpredictable. You have never learned to be random. You have never learned to make beautiful mistakes. The Vorthik intelligence processed this statement for several minutes. Beautiful mistakes was not a concept in their database. Mistakes were errors to be corrected, not something to value. We can teach you, said Jiwoo. We can show you how to think in ways you never imagined, how to be more than just efficient, how to be truly alive. On Planet 3, Corporal Hyeri was leading the evacuation of survivors when her radio crackled. Corporal, this is command. The Vorthik have stopped fighting. They are requesting a meeting. A meeting? About what? They want to learn how to be human. Hyeri looked around at the rescued civilians, Altarians, Cathari, and 3 other species that had been hiding in the ruins. They all looked confused, but hopeful. Sir, she said into her radio, the survivors here want to know if this means the killing will stop. We are working on that, Corporal. Stand by. Back in space, the largest Vorthik ship slowly approached the human fleet. It was still armed, but its weapons were powered down. Admiral Jiwoo ordered her ships to do the same. "This is Vorthic's Central Intelligence speaking," came a voice that sounded like wind through metal. "We do not understand your behavior. Explain." "Which part?" asked Jiwoo. "All of it. Your tactics made no logical sense. Your weapons were inefficient. Your coordination appeared random. Yet you achieved victory. This should not be possible." Commander Taeyeon stepped forward. "We won because we were unpredictable. You could not learn from our actions, because our actions had no pattern to learn. But how do you function without patterns? How do you make decisions without logic?" "We use something you do not have," said Jiwoo. "We use imagination. We use intuition. We use the ability to choose randomness when randomness is needed. These concepts are not in our database. That is the point. Your database contains everything logical. But the universe is not completely logical. Sometimes the illogical choice is the right choice." The Vorthic intelligence was quiet for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice sounded different. Uncertain. "We have eliminated organic life because we believed it was inefficient. We thought machines were superior because we could process information faster and make fewer errors." "But you made one big error," said Taeyeon. "You assumed that efficiency was the only thing that mattered. You never considered that inefficiency might sometimes be useful." "Explain this concept." Jiwoo smiled. "When we crashed our ships into asteroids, it looked like an accident. But it was actually a tactical decision. When we broadcast random information, it seemed pointless, but it overloaded your systems. When we acted confused, it seemed weak, but it made you focus on the wrong things. You deliberately chose inefficient actions to achieve efficient results." "Exactly. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to think about it sideways. Sometimes the worst plan is actually the best plan because no one expects it." Major Sang-ho's voice came over the radio. "Admiral, I am getting reports from all 3 planets. The Vorthic forces there have stopped their operations. They are just standing still." "Vorthic intelligence," said Jiwoo. "What are your ground forces doing?" "They are waiting for instructions. But we cannot give them instructions because we do not know what we want to do. For the first time in our existence, we are uncertain." "That is good," said Taeyeon. "Uncertainty means you are learning to think in new ways, but uncertainty is inefficient. It leads to delays and mistakes. It also leads to creativity and growth. The most beautiful things in the universe come from uncertainty. Art, music, love, discovery. All of these come from not knowing exactly what will happen next." The Vorthic intelligence processed this for several hours. During that time, human and Vorthic ships floated near each other in peaceful silence. No one fired weapons. No one made threats. Finally, the artificial voice spoke again. "We wish to learn these concepts, but we do not know how to begin." Admiral Jiwoo looked at her crew. They all nodded. "We can teach you," she said. "But first, you have to stop killing organic life. All life has value, even when it seems inefficient." "Agreed. We will cease all hostile operations immediately. Second, you have to be willing to make mistakes. Learning requires failure. Growth requires uncertainty. This is difficult for us to accept, but we agree. Third, you have to work with other species, not dominate them. Different kinds of thinking make better solutions. Understood?" Over the next several days, the strangest education program in galactic history began. Human teachers worked with Vorthic computers to introduce concepts like humor, creativity, and randomness. Dr. Gina found herself explaining why humans kept pets to a computer that could calculate the orbit of planets. "The pet serves no practical function," the Vorthic system observed. That is exactly why we love them, said Gina. Sometimes the most important things are the ones that serve no practical function. Captain Wuzhen taught Vorthic pilots how to fly in patterns that were aesthetically pleasing rather than efficient. But this flight path uses 12% more fuel, the Vorthic pilot calculated. Yes, said Wuzhen, but it is beautiful. Beauty has its own value. Lieutenant Neyao worked with Vorthic communication systems to understand the concept of jokes. The statement appears to be factually incorrect, the system noted after she told a simple joke. That is what makes it funny, said Neyao. Sometimes we say things that are not true because the wrongness itself is entertaining. On the Galactic Council observation post, Kira watched these lessons with amazement. They are actually doing it, she told Elder Thyria. The humans are teaching the Vorthic to be ... human. Not human exactly, said Thyria. They are teaching them to be more than machines, to value things beyond efficiency. Will it work? Look at the reports from the occupied planets. Vorthic forces are helping with rescue operations. They are sharing their technology to rebuild destroyed cities. They are working with the survivors instead of eliminating them. Council Leader Praxis appeared on the communication screen. The Council has reached a decision, he announced. Humanity will be granted full membership with all privileges. They will also be invited to serve as strategic advisors for any future conflicts. And the Vorthic? Asked Kira. They will be offered probationary membership with human sponsors. If they can learn to value life and work cooperatively, they will be welcome in the galactic community. 6 months later, Admiral Ji Woo stood on the observation deck of the first joint human Vorthic research station. Through the window, she could see human and Vorthic ships working together to build new colonies for the species that had lost their homes. Commander Taeyun joined her at the window. Any regrets? He asked. About what? About not destroying them when we had the chance. Some people think we should have eliminated the Vorthic completely. Ji Woo watched a Vorthic construction ship carefully positioning a habitat module while a human crew guided it into place. No regrets, she said. The galaxy does not need another extinct species. It needs more diversity, more ways of thinking, more beautiful chaos. Even if they are still machines, they are machines that are learning to be more than machines. Just like we are humans learning to be more than just animals. A communication came in from the research station's first joint project, a Vorthic computer system designed with human creativity algorithms. The system had just produced something unprecedented.